The grand hall of the galactic Concord shimmered with light from 1,000 worlds. Marble-white pillars rose into a vault of starglass, where constellations drifted like living maps of empire. Every race in the known galaxy had a voice here, every race except the one everyone was currently whispering about. Humans. They sat in silence. At the long crescent of the council table, 3 human delegates occupied their section with unsettling stillness. Where most species vibrated with motion, flicking antennae, pulsing crests, or shifting scales, the humans did nothing. They breathed, barely. Their stillness drew attention like a black hole draws light. High Chancellor Veldar of the Dravani Dominion slammed his clawed hand on the lectern, eyes flashing amber. Enough of this farce. Humanity has broken the Concord's code of non-aggression. Their fleets expand, their shipyards multiply, and yet they claim it is for defense. Defense against what, I ask? His voice rose, deep and rasping. No one attacks Earth. No one dares. So why do they arm themselves? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Ambassadors from softer, gentler worlds nodded in agreement. Only one group did not move. The humans. Ambassador Elijah Reed looked up from his tablet. He was middle-aged by human standards, graying at the temples, posture precise. His suit was dark and unadorned, save for the silver pin of the United Terran delegation. When he spoke, it was soft, almost kind. Defense, he said, is not a declaration of hostility. It's a recognition of history. Veldar sneered. History? You mean your wars? Your exterminations? Reed's eyes didn't flicker. We remember what happens when we're unprepared. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Across the chamber, Admiral Uros of the Concord fleet, a tall, silver-skinned Osirian, shifted in his seat. He'd fought beside humans once, long ago. He remembered how they moved, how they didn't scream when the plasma fire came, how they advanced, even burning. He found himself hoping the Chancellor would stop talking. He did not. Humans destabilize everything they touch, Veldar spat. You trade your weapons to frontier colonies, are mercenaries, build fleets beyond sanctioned tonnage. You claim peace while training soldiers. You call it security. I call it preparation for conquest. Reed simply folded his hands. His lips curved slightly. Not a smile, exactly. Something older. Our species learned long ago, he said quietly, that peace isn't kept by speeches. It's maintained by readiness. The Chancellor barked a bitter laugh. And now your colonies strike Dravani patrols along the rim. You pretend ignorance, but your ships, your hunters, they stalk our lanes. Reed tilted his head. We've reported all incidents. The Concord hasn't responded. That's because you. A gavel struck. The High Speaker of the Council, an aged Telleran with glassy insectoid eyes, rose. Enough. The Concord will deliberate privately before delivering its verdict. Veldar gave a theatrical bow. As it should be. The galaxy cannot endure another human war. He turned to leave. As he passed the human delegation, his voice lowered, mocking, venomous. You think your civility hides you, little predator. But I see you. The galaxy will leash your kind again. For the first time, Captain Mira Lorne, the military advisor seated behind Reed, spoke. Her voice was measured, calm as still water. You mistake restraint for leashing, Chancellor. It's a common error among prey. Veldar froze mid-step. He turned slowly, baring teeth. Are you threatening me? Lorne met his gaze without a blink. No, she said, smiling faintly. I'm clarifying context. Every translator bead in the hall paused for half a second before processing that sentence. The delay somehow made it worse. Veldar hissed, recoiling. Typical human arrogance. Typical misunderstanding. Reed replied gently. We're not here to threaten anyone. His tone was patient, almost apologetic, yet the tension in the chamber was suffocating. The humans left the chamber first. They walked side by side down the echoing marble corridors, the sound of boots rhythmic, deliberate. The aliens who passed them lowered their eyes. None could say why, exactly, but the human silence felt heavier than shouting. Mira Lauren's reflection shimmered in the polished wall as she spoke. They've already decided. Reed nodded. They'll restrict fleet movement, maybe seize some shipyards. A gesture to show control. And when the Dravani strike again? They'll deliberate, Reed said simply. They always deliberate. Myra's jaw tightened. They took Vega Colony yesterday. 17,000 civilians. I know. She stopped. Then why are we still here? Reed turned to face her. Because we're polite. There was no sarcasm in his tone. No anger. Just a quiet, terrible calm. In the observation deck above the council spire, Admiral Uroz watched the humans depart. His aide, a young insectoid diplomat, clicked nervously beside him. Admiral, do you believe they'll accept the verdict? Uroz watched the shrinking figures below. Accept? Yes. Then it is settled? He exhaled slowly. No. Not settled. Not at all. He remembered something the human soldiers once told him during the siege of Delos Prime, words that haunted him whenever the stars grew too quiet. Humans don't start fights, the captain had said, cleaning his rifle with surgical precision. We just finish them neatly. Down below, the human delegation reached the docking platforms. The sleek outline of the U.S. Resolute waited in the star-dusted air, her hull matte black and silent. No banners. No weapons visible. A diplomatic ship, at least on paper. As the docking bridge sealed, Mira Lorne glanced back at the Concorde's spire one last time. The lights within flickered, like a dying candle. Captain, Reed said softly, prepare the fleet status reports for my office. We'll wait for the verdict. She nodded once. And if they side with the Dravani? Reed's eyes never left the tower. Then we'll issue our response. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that belonged to a surgeon just before the incision. Politely. The Galactic Concorde reconvened 3 days later. Outside the vast orbital citadel, fleets hung in disciplined silence, their hulls glinting like jeweled knives beneath a cold sun. Every species had sent observers. Every eye turned to one question. Would humanity submit? Inside the hall, Chancellor Veldar stood taller than before, confidence coiling around him like smoke. The council had reached its decision, and he could smell blood in the air. The humans were late. When they finally entered, the entire chamber shifted. No music, no announcement, no ceremony. Just 3 figures walking through the arched doors with perfect calm. Reed, Mira, and Lieutenant Anya Cho. Their black uniforms seemed to drink the light. Veldar said, voice dripping mockery. The Predators deign to join us. Ambassador Reed inclined his head slightly. We came as soon as the council confirmed its decision. The High Speaker nodded. Indeed. The Concorde has deliberated. Humanity's fleets are hereby restricted from deploying beyond Sol and its immediate colonies. Your armaments are to be inventoried and verified under Concorde supervision. Compliance is expected within 1 cycle. Reed's expression did not change. Understood, he said softly. May I inquire if this restriction also applies to Dravani forces operating in Terran colonial sectors? Veldar's eyes narrowed. The Dominion's actions are internal security measures. Of course, Reed replied. So was ours. A low murmur rippled through the assembly. The speaker raised a hand. Ambassador, please. Reed's tone remained mild. The Concorde failed to respond to reports of Dravani aggression. Human civilians have been taken. Colonies burned. And yet we are the ones sanctioned. He looked around the chamber, gaze calm and level. I simply wish the record to show that humanity understands this decision perfectly. Veldar chuckled. You will obey it then? Reed smiled. We always obey the rules, Chancellor. Especially the ones we write down ourselves. The words hung in the air, soft and deadly. From his seat in the upper galleries, Admiral Uroz felt the back of his neck prickle. He knew that tone. He'd heard it before a human assault, just before everything went quiet. Below, the speaker's crystalline voice filled the silence. Then the decision is final. All Terran military actions beyond sanctioned borders are suspended. Failure to comply will result in A shrill tone interrupted her. One of the central holo displays flickered to life, unauthorized, uninvited. A new transmission flooded the chamber. Blue icons. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Fleet markers. The Dravani Dominion. And they were burning. Gasps filled the air as live feeds streamed in. Dravani shipyards engulfed in plasma fire. Orbital fortresses splitting open like eggshells. Entire task forces vanishing under precision strikes. Veldar's voice rasped. What is this? Who authorized this feed? The humans said nothing. The holo shifted again, this time showing a single vessel, black as shadow, sliding through the embers of a shattered moon. No insignia, no broadcast, but its silhouette was unmistakable. UNS Resolute. Mira Lorne's voice came over the transmission, calm, clear, mercilessly polite. Attention Dravani Command. Pursuant to Terran emergency directives, unauthorized occupation of human colonies has been terminated. Your assets are being decommissioned. Please stand by for finalization. Her tone was clinical, devoid of emotion. Yet it froze the entire council. Veldar spun toward Reed, claws flexing. You dare. You defy the Concord? Reed looked up, mild as ever. We comply with your restrictions, Chancellor. No Terran fleet beyond Sol has been deployed. Then what is that? A task force from Vega Colony, Reed said smoothly. Independent. Civilian volunteers. You expect us to believe. I don't expect anything, Chancellor. Reed's eyes met his. I'm merely notifying you of events. The line echoed through the chamber like thunder behind glass. The speaker's voice wavered. Ambassador Reed, these actions constitute a violation. Violation. Reed interrupted softly. You mistake precision for violence. We are simply removing threats to our people. Veldar was trembling with rage. You will answer for this. Oh, Reed said almost gently. We already have. With interest. From the observation tier, Admiral Uros whispered to himself. Dear stars, they planned this before the verdict. The aide beside him clicked anxiously. Should we intervene? Uros shook his head slowly. Intervene with what? He knew better than anyone once humans started moving, the galaxy had already lost the initiative. Back in the chamber, the holo feed zoomed closer to one Dravani fortress station. Hundreds of escape pods ejected into the void, trailing smoke and debris. Through the flickering firelight, Mira Lorne's ship glided past, its hull unscarred. Operation concluded, Myra's voice said through the transmission. Enemy assets neutralized. Civilian captives recovered. Awaiting diplomatic instructions. Reed looked at Veldar, voice low and courteous. There's your clarification, Chancellor. We don't seek conflict. We resolve it. Veldar stared at him in disbelief. You call this resolution? You've annihilated. Correction, Reed said. We have concluded hostilities. The Dravani initiated them. We simply completed the conversation. His phrasing was deliberate, cold, measured. The translators hesitated again before delivering it in dozens of alien languages, and each translation made it sound worse. The speaker tried to restore order. Ambassador Reed, the Concord demands. Reed inclined his head politely. Demands are for subordinates. We're equals here. Unless, of course, that's changed. A dead silence followed. No one moved. No one breathed. The humans bowed, a gesture of respect, somehow still predatory, and turned to leave. As they did, Mira Lorne's comm bead blinked once. She murmured into it as they walked through the doors. Begin withdrawal. Target zones sanitized. The doors closed behind them. The sound echoed through the council like a coffin ceiling. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Veldar turned to the high speaker, trembling with fury. You see? They mock us. They wage war in silence. We must unite the fleets. But even as he shouted, the speaker was staring at the flickering holo feed. One last transmission shimmered to life, a human diplomatic seal. A simple message. To the Galactic Concord. The situation has been resolved. No further action is required. With respect, the United Terran Delegation. Beneath it, a small human smiley face appeared. Just a symbol. But no one in the chamber laughed. Above the Concord Citadel, the Resolute turned away from the sun, engines burning soft blue. Its sleek form vanished into shadow, leaving only the afterglow of annihilation on distant worlds. Admiral Urose watched from his window, the stars reflected in his silver eyes. "Polite," he whispered. "Always so damned polite." And for the first time in his long career, he pitied whoever would be next to mistake human civility for weakness. The Dravani homeworld of Zarkan was a fortress wrapped in arrogance. Ringed by orbital citadels and defense arrays that could vaporize fleets, it had never fallen, not in 10,000 years of Dominion history. Its people called it the Claw of the Stars, believing it untouchable. That was before humans decided to be polite. In the void beyond the Dravani system, 30 Terran vessels held silent formation. No heraldry, no active beacons. Just matte black holes and the faint pulse of controlled power. The lead ship, U.S. Resolute, hung at the center, watching the planet through distant light. Captain Mira Lorne stood on the bridge, her posture relaxed, her hands clasped neatly behind her back. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm and conversational, like a teacher preparing to start class. "Status," she said. Lieutenant Anya Cho's fingers danced over her console. "Outer patrols neutralized. No survivors. No transmissions escaped. Their fleet is hunkered behind the defense perimeter. Probably thinks we're bluffing." Myra's gaze remained fixed on the holographic planet. "Open a channel to the Dravani High Command. Diplomatic encryption." The crew exchanged brief looks. They knew what that meant. Anya's tone was steady. "Channel open, Captain." Mira nodded once. "Transmit message." The holo projector flared to life. On the other end appeared a war room of the Dravani High Command, rows of scaled officers, and the towering figure of High Chancellor Veldar himself. His face was twisted with fury, his eyes burning with disbelief. "This is madness," he roared. "Your fleets are committing acts of terror across Dominion space. Do you understand what you've done?" Myra's expression was serene. "Perfectly. You dare strike a sovereign world of the Concord?" "Correction," she said evenly. "We strike a world that enslaved ours. The Concord had ample time to intervene. You chose otherwise." Veldar slammed a fist onto the console. "You are outnumbered 100 to 1. Mira tilted her head, almost pitying. "Then this will be educational." Reed's voice came softly from behind her, transmitted from the diplomatic wing of the Resolute. "Captain, the Council is watching this exchange. Remember your tone." Mira smiled faintly. "Of course, Ambassador. We're professionals." She turned back to Veldar. "High Chancellor, this communication serves as official notice of corrective action. Your fleets have engaged in the capture and execution of Terran civilians. We have recovered enough evidence to classify your actions as systematic atrocity." Veldar spat. "Evidence? Lies." Myra's tone didn't change. "We don't argue evidence, Chancellor. We act on it." Her hand lowered slightly. A soft chime sounded through the bridge. The hologram shifted. Above Zarkan, invisible until that moment, a vast Terran carrier group decloaked. Their dark forms appeared one by one, like ghosts emerging from the deep. Each ship bore no insignia, only clean geometry and the faint blue burn of containment fields. Veldar froze. His officers murmured in shock. Mira continued, polite and measured. "You have 3 options. 1. Surrender your orbital stations and evacuate your civilian populations. 2. Disable your defense grid, and we will occupy peacefully for tribunal proceedings. 3. Do nothing. That will conclude our conversation." The Chancellor snarled. "You think you can threaten us with a handful of ships?" Mira inclined her head. "Threat? Oh no. We're beyond that stage. This is a courtesy call." Behind her, Anya Cho whispered to the weapons AI. "Mark all defense nodes." Prioritize command arrays and fusion reactors. Veldhar's crest flared with rage. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't we? Mira asked gently. For a long heartbeat, silence. Then, one of the Dravani defense platforms opened fire. A storm of plasma lanced into space. The first human response was instantaneous. The Terran fleet didn't return fire with chaos. It answered with surgical precision. In less than 4 seconds, every active emitter on that platform winked out. The entire structure disintegrated in silence, vaporized atom by invisible kinetic rounds traveling at a fraction of light speed. The hololink crackled as the shock registered on the Dravani faces. Myra's voice came again, steady as gravity. You have demonstrated intent. Option 3 confirmed. She gave a small nod to Anya. Proceed. From orbit, the storm began. No sound, no fury, just pure, calculated annihilation. Hundreds of precision strikes fell like rain made of light. Each human projectile was programmed to bypass civilian sectors, targeting only military assets, data centers, and command installations. In less than 5 minutes, the planetary defense grid collapsed. The Dravani fleet attempted to launch, but found their engines already compromised. Every vessel that moved disintegrated before clearing orbit. Veldhar screamed through the hollow. You're destroying our world. Mira answered quietly. No, Chancellor. We're correcting it. He bared his teeth. You think this makes you powerful? You'll be remembered as butchers. Myra's eyes softened. No, Chancellor. We'll be remembered as polite enough to warn you first. The last of the orbital stations ruptured in a silent flare. The fleet held position. Mira exhaled slowly, her tone still formal. Ceasefire in effect. Surface damage minimal beyond designated targets. Begin transmission of humanitarian protocols. Evacuate non-combatants. Anya's voice came from the console. The Concord channels are broadcasting your feed galaxy-wide. I know, Mira said. They wanted transparency. We're giving it. She turned back, toward the viewport. The blue curve of Zarken rotated below, vast and wounded, yet alive. Somewhere down there, millions were watching the stars and realizing that the polite humans had never raised their voices. Only their standards. A soft tone chimed. Ambassador Reed's face appeared on her side screen. Well done, Captain, he said. His voice was as calm as ever, though his eyes carried that same quiet gravity. The Council has declared an emergency session. They wish to discuss the situation. Myra's reply was simple. We'll attend. After the evacuation. Understood. The galaxy is watching, Captain. Make sure they learn the right lesson. She nodded once. Oh, they will. Hours later, when the bombardment ceased, the Dravani homeworld hung scarred but intact. The Terran ships had not razed it. They had surgically dismantled its ability to wage war. Power grids, shipyards, communications, all rendered silent. No civilian casualties. No collateral damage. Only precision. Only efficiency. Only the quiet aftermath of a hunt completed. Veldhar's final transmission came through, broken and desperate. What are you? Mira looked directly into the camera. Hunters, Chancellor. Polite ones. She cut the channel. The stars outside shimmered faintly as the Resolute turned from the dying world. Her engines whispered blue fire across the void. Behind her, silence reigned where arrogance had lived. On the bridge, Mira finally allowed herself to breathe. The crew watched her, awaiting orders. She smiled faintly. Send the after-action report to the Concord. Title it, The Polite Correction. Anya raised a brow. That's understated. Myra's smile deepened, sharp as a blade sheathed in silk. Exactly. The stars burned quietly. Across half the galaxy, fleets once loyal to the Dravani Dominion drifted in ruin. The Dominion's colonies sent distress calls into the void, unanswered. Their military hierarchy, so proud and ancient, had collapsed under the weight of something the galaxy had never truly seen before. A human hunt. And the strangest thing was, no one could tell when it began. Admiral Uros stood in the observation deck of the Concorde's Central Fleet headquarters, eyes fixed on the wall of hollow feeds streaming from every sector. Blue icons flared, vanished, flared again, not random battles, not chaos.
Pattern.
Each Terran strike group moved with eerie precision, like a school of predators communicating through instinct alone. No intercepted transmissions, no chatter. The humans fought in silence, coordinated through encrypted laser pulses that even the Concorde's AI could barely track. He whispered, "They're not attacking, they're pruning." Beside him, a nervous young aide buzzed his wings. "Pruning, sir?" Uros gestured to the hollow. "They're cutting the Dominion's military spine. Command first, fuel lines second, communications last. Every strike ends cleanly. No wasted motion." The aide stared. "But why so quiet?" Uros smiled grimly. "Because this isn't war to them. It's maintenance." Far away, on the deck of the UNS Halcyon, Commander Tarek Ruiz monitored the synchronized advance of his destroyer squadron. Each ship's AI heartbeat pulsed with calm readiness. Each captain's voice, when it came over the channel, sounded almost serene. "Target grid complete," one said. "Confirm sequencing," replied another. "Confirming. Begin politely." The command phrase, "begin politely," triggered a ripple through the network. The Terran fleet unfolded across the void like a pack of wolves circling prey. Their drives flickered once, and then every Dravani vessel in the outer rim blinked out of existence. Not exploded, not shattered, erased. On a border colony world of the Concorde, a gathering of diplomats, soldiers, and civilians watched the reports come in. Holoscreens filled entire plazas, showing live feeds from the war fronts. No triumphant anthems. No human speeches. Only footage, terrifyingly clean. A Terran strike carrier sliding silently past a burning moon. A formation of black frigates cutting through plasma storms in perfect synchrony. A boarding team in gray exocets stepping through fire, retrieving prisoners, and leaving without a word. An alien journalist whispered, "They look peaceful." His companion, a scaled observer from the THYR Alliance, shivered. "Peaceful things don't move like that." In the council hall, the High Speaker struggled to keep order. "This is unacceptable," she cried. "The humans are dismantling an empire under the Concorde's nose. They've ignored every call for ceasefire." Ambassador Reed sat quietly in his chair. He hadn't moved for an hour. When he finally spoke, it was almost tender. "Ceasefire, Madam Speaker?" "Oh, there's been no fire to cease. We're just cleaning up. Cleaning up. You've annihilated hundreds of..." Reed's gaze lifted, and she stopped speaking. His eyes were calm, but not empty. They were focused, as though he was looking through her, into the far distance where something inevitable was unfolding. "Madam Speaker," he said softly, "you mistake scale for savagery. We don't do this out of rage. We do it out of order. And courtesy demands we finish what we start." Across the Dravani frontier, the final bastions fell in eerie silence. Every Terran fleet withdrew immediately after each engagement.
They did not occupy.
They did not conquer. They simply eliminated threats, transmitted a single line of communication to surviving colonies, and vanished. Message received. Aggression concluded. Your systems are free to rebuild. Please avoid repeating mistakes. Human command. The galaxy began calling it the Quiet War. At Concorde Command, Admiral Uros stood before a panoramic display showing all active sectors. He felt a strange emotion building in his chest, awe mixed with fear, but also respect. He turned to his staff. "Record everything. The galaxy needs to remember this." "Sir," the aide asked. Uros gestured at the display. "This is the first war in history fought entirely with restraint. No conquest, no plunder. Just surgical removal." He hesitated. "And yet, somehow, it's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen." Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Captain Mira Lorne stood at the viewport as the fleet regrouped in Terran space. The stars beyond shimmered like cold fire. Her crew worked in silence, exhausted but unbroken. "Damage reports?" she asked. "None," Lieutenant Cho replied. Minimal losses. Civilian recoveries ongoing. Any retaliation from the Dominion? None left capable. Mira nodded once. Then we're finished. Reed's voice came through the comms from his quarters. Almost. The Council's sending observers to verify the proportionality of our response. Mira smiled faintly. They'll find everything in order. We even left the cities standing. That, Reed said, is what terrifies them most. Hours later, as the fleet powered down, Mira stood alone on the bridge, watching the faint blue arc of Earth rise over the Sol horizon. In the stillness, she thought of the Chancellor's final transmission, his voice broken, disbelieving. What are you? No rage. No triumph. Just quiet certainty. Humans had answered the question 1,000 different ways throughout history. Explorers. Builders. Monsters.
Saviors.
But maybe the truth was simpler. Predators that learned to smile. On the far side of the galaxy, in a quiet archive on Osiris Prime, Admiral Uros recorded his report for the Concord Historical Council. His words were slow, deliberate. The humans warned us what they were. We mistook patience for peace, politeness for weakness. They do not negotiate as we do. They hunt, methodically, ethically, politely. They will greet you warmly, offer tea, and remember your children's names. And if you harm their own, they will come for you with the full weight of civilization behind every smile. He paused the recorder. Outside, the stars shimmered faintly, silent, watching. That night, across the Concorde's core worlds, thousands of broadcasts replayed fragments of the war. In every transmission, one thing stood out. The humans never shouted, never cursed, never gloated. They simply informed their enemies that the matter was settled. And in that moment, the galaxy finally understood. The UNS Resolute drifted through the skeletal remains of the Dravani Armada, its running lights dimmed to a respectful glow. Fires still burned in the void, ghostly ribbons of vapor and molten hulls suspended in the starshine. The battle had ended an hour ago, and already the silence was unbearable. Inside the command deck, Captain Mira Lorne stood before the central viewport, hands clasped behind her back. Her reflection floated ghost-like over the wreckage beyond, eyes steady, expression unreadable. Behind her, the bridge was quiet. Technicians worked in hushed tones, their screens pulsing with soft blue data. No one spoke of victory. No one needed to. The galaxy had just seen what happened when humans stopped negotiating. Admiral Elijah Reed entered silently. He no longer wore his diplomatic coat. The Terran pin on his chest gleamed against dark combat fabric. Status, he asked. Cleanup teams are retrieving survivors. No human casualties beyond the Ares wing interceptors. Dravani losses, total, Lorne reported flatly. Reed nodded, his expression heavy. Not triumphant, but thoughtful. The Council's channels are quiet. They'll speak soon, Lorne said. After they decide what to call this. Reed almost smiled. A misunderstanding, probably. The transmission. The Council's seal flickered onto the main holoscreen. The high speaker appeared, shaken. Her usual composure cracked. Behind her, alien envoys whispered in urgent tones. Human delegation, she began. The Concorde condemns your actions over the Dravani frontier. Your assault. Reed interrupted softly.
Defense.
Our colonies were attacked. The speaker hesitated, visibly uncomfortable. Regardless, you have violated Concorde space. Reed inclined his head. We warned you we would respond. Politely. Murmurs rippled through the background. Velvar was nowhere to be seen. His throne behind the speaker sat empty. The Tellarant's compound eyes blinked rapidly. The Dravani High Dominion no longer exists. Then the threat is neutralized, Reed said simply. Humanity will withdraw once the colonies are secure. Withdraw. The speaker's voice trembled. You just annihilated a sovereign power. Reed's expression softened, not an apology, but an explanation. We didn't annihilate them. We stopped them from continuing. Lorne watched the council delegates behind the speaker. The fear in their faces was pure, ancient. The kind that lived deep in genetic memory, long before spaceflight, long before civilization. The kind that recognized a predator in polite clothing. The speaker swallowed. The Concorde will convene emergency talks too. Talks, Reed said quietly. Of course. That's what you do. Her voice faltered. And humanity? Well, listen, he said. We always do. The transmission cut. Aftermath. Lorne exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders at last. You think they'll come after us? Reed walked toward the viewport.
No.
They'll file resolutions, deliver speeches. None will act. Fear. Understanding, he said. The galaxy just learned a truth it's avoided for centuries. She joined him at the glass. Beyond, fragments of Dravani cruisers spun slowly, great beasts gutted and silent. The humans hadn't just destroyed ships, they'd erased an empire's sense of invincibility. What truth? She asked quietly. That diplomacy only works between equals, Reed said. They used to think we were fragile, unstable, dangerous, because we were desperate. But they've seen now. He turned to face her, voice lowering to a near whisper. We're dangerous because we're calm. Elsewhere, Council of the Galaxy. The council chamber stood nearly empty. Many delegations had fled the capital in fear. The rest sat in grim silence as reports streamed in. Orbital defenses erased, fleets gone dark, colonies surrendering to human patrols that never fired a shot. Admiral Uros of the Osirians was the first to speak. It's over. The High Speaker trembled. You mean the war? I mean the illusion, Uros said. That humanity needed our permission. His gaze turned to the shattered symbol of the Dravani Dominion projected above the chamber. They call themselves civilized monsters, he murmured. But that's wrong. The speaker looked up. Then what are they? Uros sighed, eyes distant. Hunters. Patient ones. The kind who give you every chance to walk away before they strike. No one argued. The human fleet. Hours later, the Resolute anchored beside the U.S. Atlas, flagship of the Terran Expeditionary Command. Across the void, hundreds of Terran vessels formed perfect orbital patterns, no motion wasted, no signal sent. Silent as an eclipse. Admiral Reed stood in the observation bay, hands clasped behind his back, watching the patterns align. Lorne entered quietly. They're waiting for orders, she said. Reed nodded. Send the message. Her fingers brushed the console. The transmission pulsed across every human ship, every colony, every outpost. Stand down. Maintain readiness. Speak softly. Be polite. The lesson. Back on Earth, the news played in 1,000 languages, 1,000 interpretations. Some called it justice. Others called it terror. But the message beneath every broadcast was the same. Humanity didn't rage. Humanity didn't boast. They simply finished what had been started, and waited for the galaxy to decide whether it still wanted to talk. In the quiet of the night cycle aboard the Resolute, Lorne sat by the viewport, watching the stars drift by like lanterns on black water. They'll never trust us again, she said softly. Reed stood beside her, the faint reflection of Earth's blue light flickering in his eyes. Maybe not, but they'll remember. He paused, voice dropping to something almost reverent. And remembering, he said, is how civilizations survive. Epilogue. 1 year later. The Galactic Concorde rebuilt slowly. Trade routes reopened. Borders stabilized. No one dared mention sanctions again. The humans were invited back to the council, quietly, diplomatically, with smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. When Ambassador Reed entered the chamber once more, no one looked him directly in the eye. He bowed courteously. Terran delegation present. The High Speaker nodded stiffly. Welcome back, Admiral. He smiled. Ambassador again, if you please. Then he took his seat, calm, polite, and perfectly still. Across the chamber, Admiral Uros watched in silence, a faint tremor in his hands. He finally understood what the humans had been all along. Predators who hunted peace the same way others hunted prey, patiently, relentlessly, and always with manners.